What are our superpowers? We are clothed in capes of many. Counselors, self-sufficient women, the epitome of strength.
It's more than just a podcast. It's a movement. And there's no us without her.
I always liked that one, but it was a little over the top on the voice. I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Anthony Goodson. You are watching rebrandUS on a very spooky Halloween night. Let me turn that sound down before I have to hear Ace's lip.
Okay.
Tonight we got a very special show. It's going to be a lot of, I don't know if it's going to be a lot of fun. That's not the right term, but we certainly have to shed some light on some very important issues of certainly of the month that we didn't do that all month long. So of course, Kim was part of this. She called me and she said, "Hey, look, can we do a show that we've missed all month long?" Y'all know the NFL, they wear pink all month long, all month, the entire month of October. And that pink represents breast cancer awareness. And they do it in high school, they do it in college as well. So that's something we didn't talk about. Kim obviously wanted to come and speak on that. We also have a nurse on, of course, which is our normal resident, of course, Yashika. She can talk a whole lot more about breast cancer. But anyway, before we get started, let me go ahead and say hello to my cast right here. Kim, how you doing?
Good. How's everybody out there in TV land?
So good. We're so glad to see your smiling face once again. H, what's happening?
Hey, what's happening, world? What's going on? All our Jamaica folks tuned in. I see y'all.
How do they say hello in Jamaica?
I don't know mine.
I think they speak English. It may be hello.
Hello.
And Yashika, what happened? Yashika.
Yo. Nothing. Been a long day.
I'm getting a little nostalgia right now, Yashika. I feel like 84, 85?
Yeah. Well, 80s.
80s, with go 80s. Okay.
Yeah.
So some people didn't have enough time to change clothes from when they left their first job to this job, but that's fine. You look fine, representing Halloween.
Well, I didn't have my rebranded shirt.
That's on Adrian, actually. I don't know.
Put it on the ace. Put it on the ace.
And then we have a special guest on the show today. He's a loyal fan. He listens. He watches every Wednesday night on our normal time at 7:30. His name is Chaplain Donald Perry. Welcome to the show, Donald. How you doing?
What's going on?
So tonight, as we talked about earlier, we have a special show. We want to talk a little bit about domestic abuse. We also want to talk about Breast Cancer Awareness Month and breast cancer itself. So I'm gonna let Kim run most of the show. Of course, Kim, I got your back. We're gonna back this thing up. We're gonna back this thing up. It's a whole different topic. But tonight we're gonna talk about those things. And if anybody want to chime in, first of all, please share this show. Click the share button.
Share. We used to have a banner that tell you that, but
so if you are watching from Facebook, you can click the share button and then other friends can watch it. Please chime in, please educate us, because we are by no means the expert. At least 4 of us aren't. Yashika might be. So let's go ahead and get started in this show. Kim, tell us, what is breast cancer? Tell us all about it. Tell us, if you have any statistics, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But tell us what breast cancer is.
Breast cancer, of course, is cancer that's found in your breast, and it can really be found in men and women, but it's more commonly in women. Of course, as women, we need to do self-breast exams, and you can find literature on how to do a self-breast exam. You can do it either laying down or in the showers is the most common method that they suggest. So, and it usually starts out as a nodule, like the size of a marble or a pea, and it can develop into something else. A biopsy is performed. We'll go through all the steps, but it's something that affects your lymph nodes that are located, under your arm and in the axillary part of your arm, and it can be very detrimental to your health. It can affect you in so many ways, so which can lead to death. So it's something that can be detected early if you just take the proper steps and do the routine screenings that you need to do.
Yeah.
And if you can catch it early, your prognosis is higher. Of course, you have a better chance of surviving and beating the breast cancer. But that's basically, what breast cancer is. We'll talk a little bit more about the steps that you need to do, like as women, what we need to look for and where we need to start.
Well, there are a lot of statistics out there, and ironically, all 5 of us that's on this podcast tonight are in healthcare one way or another. 2 of us marketers, 1 of us chaplain, and the rest, we have a nurse, and then Kim. Kim is in the office too, and she does a lot of work with a lot of patients as well. So, in which you're in school to be a nurse too, correct?
No. So I'm going for healthcare administration. So I'm already kind of in the management world. I'm just going, I'm just kind of scooting over to more of a corporate level.
Absolutely. So now, speaking of breast cancer, I was doing some research. I realized 240,000 women in the United States each year are diagnosed with breast cancer. That's a high number. Yes. That's a percentage. It's got to be. 2,100 of them are in men. 2,100 men a year are diagnosed with breast cancer. But you know what's funny? I don't want to call this a black disease, but black women are far more prone to get breast cancer than white women. And on average, we get it younger than white women and everyone else in the rest of the country. So that's something to look for, because I know we have a lot of black women watching the show. So something to certainly think about. Yashika, is that something that you see on a regular basis? I mean, I know you've had a long history of nursing, and of course now you're in a little bit different situation as far as your career is concerned, but do you see a lot of that in your career?
I've seen a lot of that in my career, and I don't really see that now. Especially with the population that I work with now, I haven't seen that, but I have seen it in the past. And what you don't know is that I'll tell everybody is my aunt, my mother's youngest sister, got diagnosed with cancer. I believe she was 40. And she was my drive to even move to Texas. She's my best friend. And so I moved here to choose my biggest reason for even coming here. And we lost her at 44.
Oh,
wow.
Lost her at 44 in my face. Wow. I watched her take her last breath. So although I don't deal with it that much, how I work, I've dealt with it on just a devastating level.
So from a more spiritual standpoint, Chaplain, Donald, like how often do you see this, and do you minister to these young ladies or elder ladies any different than you would any other kind of disease once they're on hospice, perhaps?
Well, what's interesting is the subject matter of breast cancer, I may not hear about that with a patient or family. Sometimes it may be made known through other family members or the support system of the patient or family, and they just have that for the sake of discussion. And I just provide what is called emphatic listening in a non-judgmental, non-anxious presence, realizing that, hey, this is their reality. It's an unfortunate reality along with some other issues that are going on, but providing just a listening ear and providing them a caring presence and just prayer for them, because it's not an overnight cure, it's not an overnight process, but the treatment plans are there, of course. And sometimes I will just kind of encourage them about the resources that are out there. Just tap into it. There are agents of human agents of change. It's just a matter of choice to kind of, if they've already been diagnosed with that, sadly, there's still interventions of care that's appropriate for them. So, but it's a sad moment. It's a sad issue. I've heard that men do have it also.
So Kim, I know you have a whole lot more for us in a little bit, and I'll get to you right after I finish with this. And anybody who has a comment out in the listening world, please be sure to put your comment in there. But here's some facts about breast cancer. Number one, it is the second leading cause of cancer death in women in the United States. 1 in every 39 women die. That's about 2.5% of those women. And an average age of Black women, like I said earlier, is 60 years old. White women, 63 years old with breast cancer. So, I mean, it's a tough disease, of course. All diseases, especially these deadly ones like this, cancer most specifically, are tough. However, Kim, can it be caught early? And how? I mean, I know you can do your own breast checks and all that stuff, but do you go in monthly? Do you go in annually? How do you check it?
So, first of all, as women, just period, not just Black women, as women, we need to, and as a people, just period, everyone needs to know their family history. That's first and foremost. Talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents, talk to someone in your family and see who's had any kind of issue with with cancer or any other predisposition for any other health reason, but mainly cancer, because cancer is based on genetics. Okay. Just like every other disease is. So, talk to your people and see what runs in your family, as we say. Number one, do your self breast exams as well. Like I said, either in the shower, either lying down. Talk to someone, talk to your primary care physician and see exactly or your gynecologist and see exactly what a lump or a nodule would feel like. And so you can know the characteristics of a nodule or a lump. Number three, go and get a mammogram. And we start getting mammograms at the age of 40. Okay. 40, you can get a screening, and that is covered by your insurance at 100%. It's just like a physical. It's part of a routine exam. So you can get your mammogram at the age of 40. If you have a strong history of breast cancer in your family, then you really need to start at 35. Okay. Getting that mammogram, just to make sure that if you have any kind of trait or anything like that, then you can catch whatever may be there and take care of that and get that diagnosis. And you could possibly just have the nodule removed. If a nodule is found, of course, they'll do an ultrasound and then they'll do further testing and everything. And once it's confirmed, they will do a biopsy to confirm that. So, and once it's confirmed, then your primary care physician will work with an oncologist to see if it's cancer or not, if it's malignant or benign. Malignant means that it's cancerous. Benign means that it's not cancerous. So then your primary care physician will work with an oncologist or with a breast surgeon to see what your next steps would be for the betterment of your health. So, and I would say the biggest thing, and I've talked to so many women about this, and I've actually been through this myself recently, just having some findings and everything. Don't be in denial. Don't be in denial. And just know that if you take care of things early enough, your prognosis is so much better. You can beat whatever it is, with you and God, of course. Yeah. Anything is possible.
So we have two women who know a whole lot about the healthcare industry, and we have three men who I should be asking this question, but I'm not. How do a man know if he has breast cancer? I mean, because we can move, we can do all this stuff, but it means nothing. How do what do we do to where we start realizing, wait a minute, something's not right for breast cancer?
The thing is that your lymph nodes are most of the time the main warning that will tell you, if something is going on. I have found that in men, they have a swelling under their arm, under their armpit, in their axillary. So that can be an indicator as well. So, what else was I was gonna say something else, and I lost my train of thought.
That's all right. Well, I mean, let's see. There's been some famous people who had breast cancer. Richard Roundtree, I'm told, is one of them who had
And
breast
that was
cancer.
recent.
Yeah, he shared. Yeah, that shared a lot of. That's when I first started, like from the men side thing. I'm like, like Shaw's got it. Dang, I better, start kind of paying attention to this.
Mhm.
Is
And
it
even
genetic
as
with
a
man?
man, I'm sorry.
I said, is it genetic too? Even if a man gets breast cancer, does it
It
come from?
absolutely is. And even the characteristics are, it can be the same in men and women. It's lumps, swelling, asymmetry, and it means that if you look at your chest or your breast and they are not the same in any way, then that could be a sign. Your nipples, if you have like asymmetry in your nipples, or if you have nipple discharge, those are strong signs that there's something going on as well. Okay, Anthony, stop it. Cut it out. I see the smirk.
Hey, you were saying all kinds of trigger words, and I'm trying to be serious today.
Hey, I'm saying I'm keeping hush mum's the word on this, but I do have a question with this being such a major type of cancer. What are you guys' opinions on as far as do you feel that because it's still alarming rates? So do you think that there's a lack of funding for the research, or they just can't get a handle on this?
I think it has a lot to do with just the unknown. Sometimes some people don't even have a family history of any kind of cancer, any kind of, and then boom, they have the most aggressive cancer at the age of 25. So it's just one of those things that is just part of the unknown. No matter how much research they've done a lot of research, and they've came a long way. They found a lot of different things that will help, as far as like smoking and your diet. They teach us as women, to watch our diet and watch our caffeine and smoking and nicotine and all that, because that kind of feeds it, if per se. But I think it's just part of the unknown. It's just one of those things that is just there. Would you say the same as Yashika?
I would say, yeah, for my aunt, I can only speak for what I know. For my aunt, she didn't smoke or drink.
Yeah.
She did the healthy, clean life. So, and we did have lung cancer. My grandmother passed from lung cancer, but I believe she was a smoker. So, they would say, well, maybe not, because, she was a smoker. So that might have contributed to that. But breast cancer, we didn't have, and so but she didn't, like me, she didn't smoke. She didn't drink. She didn't smoke. So what, so if they say, if you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that, your odds are higher. But she had the most aggressive kind, very aggressive. And, every time she'd go back, it'd be somewhere else. And then she'd go back and it'd be somewhere else. It metastasized, which means it went to different places. And it just, yeah. So.
That's another thing about an aggressive breast cancer, that it can spread. It can go to your brain, it can go to your kidneys, it can go to your lungs, it can go to your bladder. It can go to any organ.
Bones. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the comments. I believe this is Miss Deborah Collette. She says, cancer runs in my family like running water. My mother, her two sisters, my baby sister, my brother, me and my two daughters have been blessed. My mother died at the age of 45 from cancer.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so you know what that is. That's switching tunes a little bit. That's a generational curse. I believe that you can pray that out just like you can smoking or violence or whatever the case may be. That's a generational curse that you come together as a family. You fast, you do whatever it needs to be done, and you believe with others that cancer leaves your family. And so I'll be praying for y'all, and certainly that's something that I think is near and dear my heart, is eliminating cancer. I wonder when cancer came. Cancer is one of those things, like I heard, y'all, I'm switching tunes a little bit. I'll come right back. I heard that the flu came from outer space. Let me tell you what I mean. I heard that we didn't really have the flu that we have today until Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, all these guys went to the moon. And when they came back, they brought something with them. That's what I've read, I've heard. And of course, we had bird flu and different flus. The word flu itself was there before that time. But that's what I'm hearing. Certain diseases came back. So anyway, how many are man-made? How many are earth-made? How many are God-made? We never heard about the flu. And breast cancer in the Bible. So, it's got to be, we can pray this thing out, is what I'm saying. Anyway, look, let's have a little quiz that I have here. I'm going to try to see if I can pull this up. All right. Do we want to be on screen or not? Let's put us on screen as well.
Yeah,
all right.
sure.
It says, let's take the breast cancer quiz. I'm going to ask the question slow. I'm going to let y'all tell y'all's answer. We have a few people watching. Y'all put y'all's answer in the comment, and we're going to see what kind of grade we can get, I guess. I didn't take this before, so we might do it, and they might not even tell us the answers. I don't know. But anyway, let's take the quiz. Breast cancer. You can get breast cancer even if it doesn't run in your family. True or false?
Yes.
True.
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 All right. Consensus says true. It says the correct answer is true. Most women diagnosed with breast cancer, more than 85% have no family history of the disease.
Wow.
Having a relative with breast cancer does increase your risk, but other factors such as age, being overweight, alcohol use. You get alcohol. I mean, breast cancer from alcohol. Hormone therapy.
Yes, they tell you. Yes.
Hey, well, they don't want you doing nothing fun.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2, Donald. If breast cancer runs in your family, you're sure to get it. Is this true or false?
False.
False. Donald says false.
Well, I'm not going to say it. Not going to say it with such emphasis like it's going to happen. I speak life. I speak life.
That's the chaplain speaking, y'all.
That is right. Having breast
answer
cancer in your family doesn't guarantee you'll get it in. Get it.
Yeah.
In fact, I said get it in.
Too many trigger words, Kim. She a little rusty, y'all.
That's another health show she talking about.
In fact, most women who get breast cancer don't have a family history of it. Some breast cancers are related to gene changes that are inherited from a parent. But many times cancer runs in families because family members have similar lifestyle habits you can control and change to lower your risk of breast cancer. This includes staying at a healthy weight, getting regular physical activity. Hey, stop it.
No, I was just because he said you was in school at the beginning. I was just don't worry about it.
Look, I'm tired today. And limiting or avoiding alcohol. If you suspect you might have an inherited gene mutation, talk to your doctor about genetic counseling. The most common mutations that increase breast cancer risk are in the BRCA genes.
Wow. All right, here we go. You still need mammograms after menopause. True or false, ladies?
True.
And gentlemen,
True.
yeah. Men
And
have
gentlemen. Yeah, well, when you get your menopause, definitely go get the. It says getting older is not a reason to skip regular breast health checks. In fact, your risk of developing breast cancer goes up as you get older. About 2 out of 3 invasive breast cancers are found in women over the age of 55. All right, men can get breast cancers, fellas. True or false?
True.
True.
We've been hearing that all night. More than 2,500 men diagnosed every year here in the United States. All right, surgery and needle biopsies can cause breast cancer to spread. Ooh.
False.
I'm gonna go with a false.
False.
The correct answer is false. Needle biopsies to diagnose breast cancer do not cause cancer cells to spread to other parts of the body, nor does exposure to air during breast cancer surgery cause the disease to spread. Sometimes a surgeon does find more cancer than the imaging scans or x-rays showed. But
let me say this on that. Now, it might not be for breast cancer, but for other cancers, there is a possibility whenever they do go in, because for surgery, if they know that you have cancer, they are more reluctant and more hesitant to do surgery on you, because whenever they do open you up, that does cause a little bit of spreading. So I just want to say that this might not be true for breast cancer, but for other cancers, that is definitely possible.
Well, so potentially, if your cancer is spreading from your breast to other parts, now you have bone cancer. Is that what happens if it goes into the bone, or if it goes into other parts? Does it cause cancer in that part of the body? And now, if you try to have surgery, it does more damage. Does that even make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying like if you're having surgery on another body part as opposed to the breast cancer?
Well, no. If you have breast cancer,
started from breast cancer.
Yes, it started from breast cancer.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, okay. There's nothing you can do to lower your breast cancer risk. True
False.
or false?
False.
for
All right, so the correct answer is false. We made 100 on rebrandUS. Why you can't change certain risk factors like getting older or having a family history of breast cancer, you can do a lot to help reduce your breast cancer risk. Exercise more, eat healthier, etc. Get to and stay at a healthy weight. Let's get our score, y'all. We made 6 out of 6. Not too bad, rebrandUS.
All right.
That's
I don't
cool.
know if we're
Breast
smarter
cancer
because we
IQ.
got Donald.
I'm putting that on the transcript. We're keeping that.
I did want to kind of put out some statistics on breast cancer as far as who's that said get it in.
Hey, we ain't the only ones with our minds in the gutter.
Ty.
That's Ty Hosey.
So anyway, I wanted to put out some statistics of the mortality rates and like the lifetime risk of having breast cancer. So the lifetime risk in white women is 14%, which is actually a little bit higher than us as Black women. Black women have a 12% lifetime risk of breast cancer. But our mortality rate is way higher than everyone else. Okay. Asian women are at 12%. Hispanic women is at 11%. But the lowest is American Indian. Okay. I don't know why. I think maybe that has something to do with like some region, like where they're derived from, where they grew up, or I don't know. I have no clue.
Could that be per capita?
I'm sorry?
Could that be per capita? Like, are their numbers lower in general population wise? Like, are they going?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Well, I'm sure if you take a look at it, it's all about diet, health, exercise, all those things. I'm sure they got a much different diet than
exactly.
Native American Indians is who you said, right?
Right. So the mortality rate for white women is like per 100,000 is 19.7. Okay. Black women is 27.6.
Whoa.
Okay. And these are between the ages of 25 and 40. Okay. So American Indian is 20.5 and Asian and Pacific Islander is 11.7. Hispanics is 13.7. So we are up there, y'all. It's like, Black women, we're just known not to beat it, So whatever you can do.
Kim, we did a show a couple years ago, and the show was about, we had doctors on, and they were telling us that Black people generally get treated differently when it comes to health. Some of it are our own fault because we don't listen to the doctor, Yashika, whenever they give us medication. We may not take it for whatever reason. I think we had somebody on a couple of weeks ago
non-compliant.
They were non-compliant. Someone was on a couple of weeks ago saying that if high blood pressure pills to the man's manhood, that he will not take that medicine. So with all of those things being involved, they're not telling us certain things. Is that playing in part why we have a high mortality rate compared to everyone else? Is it more our fault or is it more our genes?
That's a good question.
I think
if
a person has a conviction where they're really concerned about this, I don't want to say worried, but they're really concerned about this. You have to start somewhere and establish a doctor-patient relationship. Well, somebody say, well, I don't have insurance. Well, there's so many ways that you can at least work on improving yourself, changing your behavior, your habits, cutting back on certain foods, or look at the ingredients for that matter. Sometimes do your own research, just look it up, and sometimes those ingredients can have a detrimental effect on your life. But when it gets to a point where you're really concerned about your overall health and well-being in regards to this, seek help. The resources are out there. Get a biopsychosocial assessment of some sorts. You mention that to a doctor, they'll know exactly where you're getting at. Allow yourself time. I'm 63. I am so selfish at this stage in my life. I'm going to take care of myself if it's the last thing I do, because I want to live.
Right.
I think this subject matter is just to bring some people hope that there's a resource out there for you to seek help.
The biopsycho. So can you say that 3 times fast?
Biopsychosocial assessment is where you're aging, you're getting older. Your overall quality of life, your well-being. how are you adjusting to this? How is this affecting you? Is it causing you anxiety, anger? Are you happy about it? Like me, I'm grateful to take advantage of what I need to do to take care of myself. I have no fear of it because I'm getting older like everybody else, but I'm also aging. And there's changes taking place in the human anatomy that, any nurse can tell you about. So, but basically that's just what she was saying. It's just preventative maintenance, going to the doctor, ask questions, and be patient with those answers.
But what I want to say is you can go and let's say you have your annual. Women know, we go and have an annual, right? And I've been getting mammograms since I was 35, long time, So, but you can go. I can go and get a mammogram this month and have cancer next month. So before you start with the doctor, I hear that, I'm listening. But being self-aware is important. You're supposed to do a self-exam, breast exam, just in the shower. It's quick, especially for me. And feel around. If you feel something that feels odd,
right,
get it checked out. And just because it wasn't there last month, it can be there in a month, like for real. So it's really important. Like, go to the doctor, do all this stuff. That's important. But what happens when you leave that doctor? You leave fine. And then the next month or the month after next, you feel something's different. So be more self-aware.
Yes.
Self-aware. Know your body. Know what's
right.
Make sure you do your self-exams every month. Know yourself, because you can go to the doctor, but most people, a lot of women that find out they have breast cancer, or people, they find out from a self-exam. They're more aware of their body. So we just have to be more aware and check monthly, everybody. Yeah, that's what I would say.
All right, y'all, let's switch tunes a little bit. We had a strong 30 minutes. We were talking about breast cancer awareness. If any of the viewers want to talk a little bit more about it, please put it in the comments below. We got a little bit more show to talk about. We want to talk about I had a little laugh there. I didn't do that on purpose, because the next topic is certainly not a funny one. So I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me break the monotony. I'm gonna play a quick commercial break, and then I'll come back and I'll introduce
the best way to change the world. Is to change your world. And that begins with me.
All right. So switching tunes just a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about domestic abuse. I don't even know if this is domestic abuse month.
I thought we was talking. Oh, I was sitting out giving us some background music. Go ahead.
Is there any significance as to why you're using that song as the background music?
Self-soothing.
Yeah, just you got the little background music. Now you have the Minister Society music playing at the beginning, or is it a different topic? We just
okay. Well, anyway. Domestic abuse. The interesting part about the conversation that we're talking tonight, both breast cancer and domestic abuse, is both of these things can actually happen to both sexes, both male and female. They don't really seem male dominated, seem more female dominated, I guess. Seem like they would happen towards women, but they actually happen to both. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. But anyway, I had some statistics I wanted to read to you guys as we get started on this. That on average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically being abused by an intimate partner in the United States during 1 year. This equates to more than 10 million women and men a year being abused by their significant other. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience. Wow, that's a lot of men. 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner contact, sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking, with impacts such as injuries, fearfulness, trauma, blah, 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 and so forth. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. That's a lot of men. So anyway, and I'm saying that on purpose, but 1 in 7 women and 1 in 25 men, which seems better, have been injured by an intimate partner. All right, there's many more here. I'm going to even read just a little bit about rape. 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men in the United States has been raped in their lifetime. Almost half of female, that's 46.7%. We have 2 women on the show. and 44.9% of male victims have had some kind of rape to happen to them in the United States. So these are very alarming if you think about it. Half the women out there have been raped. There's 2 women on here. I'm not going to make this personal because y'all may not want to share that, but that means at least one of y'all have probably been raped or very close to it. So let's speak on this for a little bit. First of all, have you ladies ever had these types of experiences from your partner and significant other and or?
No, for me.
He turned to
What do you mean, as far as rape or
Well, no, I'm not going into rape. I'm just talking about all the statistics based off domestic abuse and so forth. Not rape. Rape is kind of serious, so I'm not really bringing that up. I was just throwing that comment in there. But yeah. So have you been raped? But no, some
for
of
the
the
record,
top
I
ones.
haven't. But domestic violence, yes, I have.
Wow.
Let me ask you this. This is more of a personal question. If we fight each other, sometimes it's your fault, sometimes it's mine. Is that going into the statistics of domestic violence? Are you abusing or are you being abused? Which is it?
I mean, if you backslapping somebody over a couch or something, I think that's domestic violence.
What if you get backslapped the next day? Is it the same, or is it just is that considered the same domestic violence as opposed to one person just tormenting another person?
You know what I think it is, but I think society has, tends to sway our judgment. It's just like those statistics with men. I'm pretty sure that's a lot higher. But as a man, you probably really don't even consider it domestic violence. A lot of times, or some people might just be too embarrassed. Like I remember back in the day, Lionel Richie, he spoke up about it. And it was like the joke of the town. People like, oh, that's why he dancing on the ceiling, getting away from her and stuff like that. And so,
well, okay, so let's
I
go
feel
that
like
direction.
it can start out like that, but it can end up, being, to both parties, because you kind of condition your partner into doing that,
Yeah, just toxicity.
and you can only take so much where you just feel like you got to throw it back, so.
So let's switch the tune to that for a little bit. Now we have an individual on here who said he's feeling free to talk about it. I watched a video before we get there of Terry Crews saying he was abused, but he was a grown man. That's a whole different story by another grown man, probably in the last 15 years. And I lost a lot of respect for Terry Crews. Your situation is much different from that, Donald. So can you tell us a little bit about what it was you went through?
Unfortunately, it was a prior marriage of mine that I did not understand what personality affect disorders were. I did not understand what severe bipolar was. I was not aware of what conversational bullying was. I was not familiar with all that because I was not in healthcare. But sadly, I was a victim of domestic violence by my ex years ago, twice rather. And, it's a very sad experience because, being in ministry at that time and try to be transparent and open and let people know what's going on, there was unfortunately a lot of doubt. There was a lot of pushing it to the side as if it does not exist. But when they actually began to see for themselves the behavior, it was shocking from the police on down, even within the church. And sometimes it was confusing to them because they were so intimidated, embarrassed to think that how can a brother go through this? But how a person reacts to it is all dependent upon their upbringing. I'm a non-confrontational person. I sometimes get in a fight or flight mode. I take off and run. I have no time for it. I can't deal with it. And it was difficult. And I can talk about it freely at this point because, the different aspects of the domestic violence was just within an 18-month period. And, it's difficult. You want to get out of it, but there's no easy escape. You just built a house, you got married, and all this is going in your favor. You kind of wonder, is this worth the other? Or how do you balance this out? So sometimes it's a judgment call that's very difficult. But the beautiful thing about, I can say it to this point, where there were people in my life that I was able to talk to about it, including a domestic violence counselor, one of whom was a police officer. And so at that time in my life, it was something that I needed to do because I could not live there in that environment any longer. I mean, after all, ask any person who says that they love their partner, but if your glasses are broken, your voicemail box is changed, the passcode, you don't know where your car keys are, you're being stalked at work, you're paying the bills, doing all you know to do, and you're trying to live, but it's impairing your overall health. It's difficult, and to be at the lowest point in life, and also to feel ashamed. Whereas in the church world, you're taught to be a mighty man of valor. You're the leader of the home, the head of the household.
Right.
Beat up and something put in your collard greens that don't taste right, but. Yeah. Put the foot down.
No, God, somebody put something in your collard greens.
Well, this was where I didn't learn of this later about the person until I knew her. I worked with her before, but I didn't know that later and down the road that she wasn't taking her medication. I wasn't familiar with medication regimen. I wasn't familiar with all that. I was not in healthcare. I was working as a professional commercial property auditor. But I share it with some brothers who may feel that they're now. I don't want to go into much details of it, but there's all different types of abuse, like psychological abuse, sexual abuse. The list goes down, and it's not the most pleasant reading. Yeah, but I'm gonna be honest.
Let me ask you a couple questions, though.
It's difficult, but you have to make a decision for yourself and seek help and do it without feeling ashamed that someone's gonna. Don't want to have anything to do with it. You have to move on in life the best and safe way you can. So I made it out safely. I lost my home. I'm glad that I turned my life around and I ran and never looked back. But at that time, I will say it was very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Let me say this. I don't care what a person's background is. It still doesn't give them the right to put their hands on you, period.
Right.
Point blank, Yeah. So, but go ahead, Anthony. I'm sorry.
That's a powerful and brave story.
It really is.
Thank you for sharing.
I just tell people in brief, watch the movie Norbit with Eddie Murphy. That was me in the movie.
Oh, man.
She was beautiful. She was gorgeous. She was fine as wine. But
well, sometimes when they find like that, you take much more than what you should. But it's funny when I think about a man being abused in this matter. When you call the police, what happens? Sometimes you go to jail. Sometimes you're being charged. Sometimes you looked at it as the negative one, I guess. And is it easy to call the police as a man?
No, it's not easy. The first impression is you can handle this, but when they began to see it for themselves, it was a shock. I can remember it to crystal clear to this day. They saw it for themselves. They were at work with me and they said, "Who is that in the parking lot?" I said, That's what I've been trying to tell you. She's destroying my property. And she was also an officer, by the way. So, a lot of things, unfortunately, when it was apparent, it was really a shock, even to the police force at the time. But it does happen to men. I will say, a friend of mine to this day, today he's a great preacher. I seen when he was attacked, and it was just in broad daylight. It was scary at that time. It's frightening. And
so let's talk restraint. How do you restrain yourself? You're living in a house with an abusive person, whether verbally or physically, and I know you. I've been knowing you for a short time, I guess a year or less, and I don't see you as ever being that guy who's going to be the one to just rear back and pop. So how do you restrain yourself from that, especially after you've been hit?
It's got to be an escape route. You gotta have people you can trust. At that time in my life, it was my godchildren and their family that I was able to escape and stay safely, because the behavior was escalating, festering upon other people's behavior. In-laws is what I call them, outlaws now. But yeah, you got to have an escape route and do it safely. You have to tell somebody. Don't be ashamed of it. Say, hey, I got to tell you something. This is what's happening. And sometimes it may not seem to be true, because it's like society has taught us to dismiss it. It's not real. But I would not lie to you here live. It has happened to me. There are probably some listening right now who've seen that I've survived it. And so when there's different types of abuse coming your way in your relationship with someone that you're close to, that someone you love, it's frightening. It's scary. Panic, depression, all that kind of stuff sits in. if you don't get appropriate treatment. But it was very difficult for 18 months. And but to lose everything.
How long were you guys married?
18 months.
You were married for a total 18 months, and it happened.
She got right to it.
So the domestic violence started right away.
The behavior started after the supposedly honeymoon weeks. You know, changes of behavior, cussing, profanity, snapping, conversational bullying is what I call it now. It's where you initiate arguments over nothing that don't even make no sense. I've never heard of anybody say the word no 1,000 times in a second. You know, conversational bullying. No. You know, you never get your point across. You can't express yourself, and that's difficult. That's very exhausting.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So
raising my hand.
Because I'm respectful. What I would ask you is my question, and I don't know. This is just a question I have. Is that hindsight is 20/20, right? Right. That's what they say. Hindsight is 20/20. Hindsight.
That's right.
Huh?
I never heard of that.
Yes. When you look back on a situation, you kind of see it more clearly.
Their hindsight. So let's look back. So did you see things like when the courting stage? So how long were you all together before you got married?
Oh, we already knew each other. I was not aware of red flags. I mean, when you're in love, you're in love.
I understand that, but my question is, how long were you all together prior to marriage?
About 8 months. But we
8 months?
We knew each other. We worked before. We knew each other. It wasn't
okay. But during that 8 months, did you now looking back, seeing them with the eyes you have now, not the eyes you had then, the eyes you have now? When you look back, do you see signs of any kind of
abuse,
toxicity, or abuse?
No.
No. Okay.
I was just that blinded. I mean, when you're in love, you know, there's some things you're just not aware of.
And then let me also say this is that, you know, people pretend well, especially in the beginning. And then the real person shows up.
Yeah.
Okay. The real person shows up
True
after
colors.
a while.
Yeah, and that can be scary.
So even after you separated from that situation, how long did it take you to just get away from it? I mean, you know, separation just means you moved on, but how long did it take her to finally like just leave you alone?
Right.
As far as I can remember, I really don't know because I was just at that point of flight. I'm away from this. I stayed out the situation, but to overhear about the behavior was continuing. I was in a safe place at that time. I got my own place and I was around a good support system. But when I learned about the severity and the dangers behind bipolar, I didn't really know that until I started getting stuff in the mail. I said, wait a minute, this don't belong to me. This is coming to the wrong address. And then when I looked further, it was just where that person wasn't taking care of herself as she should have. And so why to this day, I don't know. But some things are very difficult to try to process in the moment. You know, you recover, but it's still a process. But I share with people in some platforms, had it not been a chaplain and social worker to work with me during those years of recovery, during grief counseling and conversations and openness, I wouldn't be as transparent as I am today. But of course, during that time, it was very, very difficult because you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't see it at that moment.
Wow.
Did she have a situation where she was on her medication before you dated? She just didn't tell you this information?
I have.
And then you got married and all of a sudden she was off the medication for 18 months?
I have no idea. There was a lot of things that people...
One day the trigger came on or the light came on.
The light didn't come on until after I came back from a New Year's Eve service. She didn't want to go. And I came back and the house was literally, the brand new home we bought was demolished. There was an orgy and all this other kind of stuff going on. It was very difficult. Yes.
You had to go back about 15 seconds.
When the police saw the police reports, they said, Mr. Perry, we encourage you to get out of this now. And at that time, it's difficult to just jump and go. You got to have a safe haven, a safe place. And you know, I'm very, but I will say this is why I take human agents resources so seriously to this day. Never be ashamed of your circumstance because
ever.
There's different types of abuse.
What about verbal abuse? It can be just as bad as physical abuse. Is what,
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What does
You
that
know what?
sticks and stones may hurt, break my bones, but words will never. Well, I don't know what. That's a lot.
Kim, it's okay. What's Kim doing?
Because her mind went 50 different places.
She having an orgy of laughter over there.
A smorgasbord. You know, now with the verbal abuse, you know, I've seen that. You know, unfortunately, I grew up in a situation where my grandmother was very like a physical and verbal abusive to, you know, her kids and, you know, grandkids, stuff like that, and a lot of my family is still affected to this day from that verbal abuse. You know, I used to see her verbally attack my aunts and verbally attack my mother. And, no orgies, Kim, but it's still, you know, to this.
But when we're talking about like domestic violence, so was she a verbally abusive and mentally abusive, like to her spouse?
Spouse wasn't there by the time I came along, but yeah, just verbally and physically abusive to pretty much everybody in her life. Raging alcoholic, you know, things like that. So I just, you know, I see that, you know, I seen my like my aunts at like 70 years old still being verbally abused and psychologically breaking them down, you know, from that, like you know, being honest, you know, so me and my cousin, we joke about it now, but she used to didn't even call us by our names. Like she first started calling me my name and I was like 18. Like my name was Bastard or a little black bastard my whole life.
But do you know any domestic violence though? Is there anything domestic violence? I mean, have you seen anything in your family or anything with domestic violence?
Oh yeah, same person, very abusive. You know, you know, like I said to everyone, like you might just get mad over her favorite football team lose, and whatever next to her, she'll crack you over the head with it. Or
you're talking
about relationship violence.
Yeah, like a relationship domestic.
Yeah,
that's
what
we're talking about.
Oh no, you know what? Domestic, no, not at all. I've always known complete gentleman. Yeah. Except for when I met Anthony.
But hey, Donald, we really appreciate you
because child abuse, you know, that's a whole nother, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
a lot about that. Me, domestic violence. My really close. One of my siblings was a victim of domestic violence to the point where she couldn't even look out the window. You know, so it was really bad. And domestic violence, fortunately for Mr. Perry, it didn't last but 18 months. Some women go through it, you know, lifetime. I have a really good friend of mine. She and I were really, really, really good friends. But about 20 years ago, her ex-husband, he was an estranged husband, didn't want her, was off living his life with somebody else, but he was very domestically abusive to her. And so her boyfriend left the house one morning, went to work. He snuck in the house, shot her, shot himself. So domestic violence can lead to death. It happens every day. You know, domestic violence is a big, very, very serious deal. And if that's why I was asking you, Mr. Perry, about hindsight. Did you see something within the 8 months? I bet you if you look back, you saw something. There was some inkling somewhere to be like it. But, you know, we're blinded by love at the time. We don't see anything. But you just have to, I guess, be mindful. What would you say, Tony?
Mindful is the perfect word.
Well, I will say this, and I'm sorry that this may not be a quote on a certain type of platform, but my theology or philosophy on life is simply in the book of Proverbs. It is better to dwell in the wilderness than to dwell with an angry and contentious woman. You know, it's just one of those factors that where there's short-temperedness and certain hand gestures and the emotional abuse, the profanity, and you know, it's like you're trying to figure out what is going on. There was no drug or alcohol involved, anything like that, because I have never touched drugs or alcohol. And you kind of try to figure out what in the world's going on here. So it gets a little challenging on your psyche because you're trying to get answers. But when support systems come in place and they make allow you to make healthy decisions, you know, it's not easy to do that. You know, you feel trapped. You know, just bought property, you invested, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
And you know, it's difficult. I've always been challenged with the question why growing up, because I was always taught if there is a question, there's an answer. If there's an answer, it's because there was a question. So at that time in domestic violence, as it was finally defined by the police reports, the challenge also comes with trying to figure out what the whys at that time, because you're seeking all different avenues of help. So I hope that this platform, as we discussed, if someone out there is in some form of domestic violence or abuse, again, there's a whole list of it. There's digital abuse. There's all sorts of abuse out there. Seek help. Tell somebody. You can be in the fight mode all you want, but believe me, you're putting yourself at a risky situation if you put yourself in the fight mode. I can deal with this. I'll tough it out. Okay, well, more power to you. But it's up to the individual. I'm glad that I made a healthy decision, so I'm grateful I can share. And
we're glad too.
Yeah.
Let's go to the comments. Big Cat the Max said, "No one knows the secrets of the human heart." I don't know if you just made that up, but that's extremely poetic and very true. Absolutely. That reminds me of a Tyler Perry movie, I think, A Family That Prays, where the mother says to the son, she said, "It's not you I'm worried about. It's your private thought that give me pause." So you don't never know. But this is actually what Big Cat said is it's better because it's out of the heart, not the mind.
Ooh,
so
that's good.
You can change the mind. All right, yeah. Someone also says, and it may have been Big Cat, Mr. Perry, what was your escaping moment from your ex?
Great question. Good question. Great question.
And this is why I'm grateful that at the age of 63, I still have my memory. I can remember certain things. At that time, from what I remember, I chose to be in a safe place because I chose to go back to work or overtime. I felt this is a safe place. I'm around people, I was working as a commercial property auditor. I'm dealing with professionals. I'm in a professional environment, but that did not work out because that escape route, if you will, led to the person getting suspicious. Where you at? What's going on? And it got very challenging to the point where, law enforcement authorities come on the scene and they see what's happening, and then the living proof is right there. But those moments of escape routes was working extra, working overtime, sometimes staying in church, just staying busy to keep my sanity. There were times I did not want to go home, but at the same point, that not coming home was leading to suspicion. Okay, where are you? With the ushers, I'm in church.
I think he's asking like what, there had to be the other shoe had to drop, right? The defining moment, the day where after that day, you never saw this person again or never dealt with this person again. What was that like?
Ooh, what was it like? It was like an emotional relief. It was like a burden lifted.
No, but what
I bet.
Well, all I can say is I left. I got my own place and moved on. Oh. And sometimes that's very difficult in the mindset of a man, especially when you worked hard for what you earned. You just bought property, land, and then within that home environment, this type of chaotic moments is very difficult to process at that time because you're trying to figure out what in the world, Lord, is going on here.
Right. Yeah.
And so,
real quick,
I didn't want to go into detail, but that's just a brief overview of that escape route.
That's good.
Real quick, and then we'll go ahead and end the show. But 18 months. Of the 18 months, was this an everyday thing, or was this like two occasions that you were talking about?
Well, that's the funny thing about domestic violence. You have your good days. The good days seems very hopeful. Things are working out. You kind of stay faithful that, okay, God, you're going to work this out. I'm going to trust you. And the scary part is when the behavior changes suddenly you come home and it's a totally different dynamic. It's frightening because you're trying to figure out what happened. What is this that you're experiencing? Tell me about it, and as a man at that time, being responsible as I was, because I was working a professional job, she was working a professional job, you try to get answers, you try to resolve these matters within the home environment without telling anyone. So there were good days, but then there were also some unusual days that just could not be understood. And as naive as I was at the time, I kind of went along with it. But then it got to a point where it escalated to a point where I had to find my escape route. That's why I'm grateful what I do for a living now is to help mobilize the family or patient's support system, to help them make it through this crisis. Because at that time it was a crisis. I just didn't see it because I was in love with this person. So It's going to vary from person to person,
Speaking of-
household to household.
Speaking of crisis, somebody. You hear that? All right, the Message Abuse
Going
Hotline,
down.
1-800-799-7233. Be sure to take that number down. Give that number to anybody that you know that's certainly dealing with these issues.
Please.
But
Repeat
what do we have on the show next week?
I'm discussing the topics that have to deal with the black family. You know the food or the drink is good when the person says swallow instead of swallow. We're going to have an interview with librarians with Tourette syndrome. And the name of the show is going to be titled Breaking the Rules. And we will have their mics muted most of the time. Married couples that swing at the playground, are they confused or just risk takers? Giggity, giggity. We'll see how that goes. You know,
Catch Adrian, the Ace Stinson, and the rest of the rebrandUS crew live Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Central on YouTube and Instagram at rebrandUS Podcast, Facebook at rebrandUS, or rebrandUS.org.
I work too hard. Look, I work too hard for this stuff, man.
It's good to be rebranded, bro. It's ongoing.
Oh,
Yashika, it's on you.
Hey, yo, Ace.
I can hear now.
Okay.
Hey, yo, Ace. Who we got on the show next week?
I'm glad you asked, Yashika. Well, next week we're just gonna have a group of women. We're gonna keep it going with the women theme, and it kind of ties into this show. But we're gonna be interviewing muscular women that love to cuddle, and the name of the show gonna be like, "Get your ass over here." That's it.
Who thinks he needs to do another one? I mean,
Hey,
you have these written down. I mean, we can.
One more.
I'm trying to be tasteful. The other one.
Hold on. Let's start all over.
Hey, yo, Ace, who do we have on the show next week?
We're gonna pretend like it's been done. Yashika, it's on you.
Hey, yo, Ace. Who we got on the show next week?
Chris said we're going to interview auto mechanics with clean hands, and we can ask them what the hell you've been doing all day.
We've done that one for.
Look, y'all know what Kiss My rebranded.
Hey, thank everybody for joining us tonight.
That's
We
good.
had
I like
fun.
that.
Donald, I appreciate you for being so honest.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, sir.
Kim, we're so glad to have you on again tonight.
Okay.
This has been fun. This is good. We got to keep this going. Hey, until next time. Are we on tomorrow night? What are we doing? We'll talk about it.
Love you, Steph.
We'll talk about it.
rebrandUS. It's motivating, inspiring. It's a conversation that needs to be had. It's Adrian, the Ace Stinson,
If you're not gonna help, don't hurt.
Eric Russell,
We need financial literacy. We also need to get over this level of fear that we have.
Anthony Gibson.
That my ancestors, whether they were slaves, innovators, or the first blacks to do something, their lives had a purpose.
It's unique to any other podcast. It's Rebrand You, Rebrand Me. It's rebrandUS.